G'day guys, it's Swiler here. I'm hoping this is a very short video just on what I call dollar cost average batching. Now by doing this, I'm assuming that you are already someone who buys Bitcoin, so I'm not telling you to go out there and buy Bitcoin if you haven't already done that before. So from that perspective, this is not financial advice for any newcomers. But if you are someone who's already buying Bitcoin and you just want to keep your systems a little more organized and a bit more cleaner, this is how I feel some people can keep sort of a neat stack. So on the screen, as you can see, I've already laid out a bit of an overall thing. So over on the left, you would have your dollar income, whether or not you're getting a salary or a wage, or whether or not you run a business and you get income that comes in sporadically, whatever the case is. That's your fiat mining. On the right hand side, we've got some sort of hardware wallet, or whether or not you're not up to that stack yet. Maybe you've just got a normal wallet. If you go ahead and generate all of the addresses that you feel that you might need for a bit of a batch, you can go out there and generate most of those addresses. If you want to, you can just copy and paste that onto something fairly small and fairly secure, and you can leave your hardware wallet in a hidden away at another location, for up to 6 months if you've got multiple addresses already generated and you already know exactly where you're going to send it. You don't need to plug your hardware wallet into the computer every single time you send it. That's just not necessary. So you can generate the addresses, just save them in somewhere very secure, keep it off your computer, and you can just plug it in and send it to those addresses without even needing your hardware wallet at all. Okay, so what is going on here? So the way I see this sort of thing is that if you've got a payday coming in, and I've just thrown some random numbers here. So let's say your payday comes in and you go, well, I can spend $500. So if you obviously send it in to your exchange, let's get a thicker thing right here. So send that into your exchange. And some people might actually go out there and dollar cost average on a daily basis. So DCA on a daily. That's currently what I'm doing right now. So my exchange is programmed to stack every single day, a little bit each day, and that takes out the volatility. So you put your money in, there will be a certain amount of time where your money will be custodial. So you basically, you leave it in there for 2 weeks or something like that. It's not that much of a harm. For 2 weeks, it's not that scary. And so it buys every single day, and slowly it whittles it down to zero. Once it comes to a level which you feel that the amount in that particular exchange is ready to come out, as in its amount which you feel comfortable with, and I'd almost suggest sometimes to think about it as if you're dealing with it in the future as well. So let's say you've only put the $500 in. Well, let's imagine that that's going to end up being $5,000 at one point in time, or maybe even $50,000 at one point in time. You think, well, I've reached my threshold where I feel comfortable that it needs to come out, and I can deal with that in 10 years when it's of a much larger value. So you basically send that $500 in, DCAs until it's empty. So it goes all the way to zero. So it's all turned to Bitcoin, no more dollars left. And once that amount is gone to zero, you withdraw that whole lot to that first generated address. Now, I suggest to keep it in one clean batch. So that dollar goes in, whittles it down to zero, then batch it out. And then so the next payment comes in, DCA, once it goes to zero, batch it out. And the reason why I believe this is the best way is because you basically it basically becomes that batch, like I was mentioning. So you know the exact amount of Bitcoin that was facilitated for that trade, for that $200 or $500 range. In the past, I used to muck around. I used to pull out money out of your exchange at all random times, and I tell you what, you get to this point where, let's say you went out and put $500 in, and once it had bought $300 worth, you pulled it out, and then somehow you got to figure out what to do with that other 200. You got to spend that and send that to a new address, and so then you've split what was one cash pile into two addresses, and it just becomes you know, do you bind those two addresses together and say, well, that was one big batch or not? It's just cleaner to just send all the cash in, make the cash go to zero, and then withdraw the exchange to zero. So zero it out on the cash side and zero it out on the Bitcoin side. And that way, if you go to open these wallets up in 10 years, in 2033, you will know that the BC1QDJ came from the $500 right here. So this one here comes from this one particularly here, and this one here comes from this one here. And this is gonna make your life a lot easier in 10 years if you do it like this, instead of just muddling this one in with that, and then putting that one there and then putting half of it into there. It's gonna create an absolute mess. And so it's better, $200 goes in, buy it till zero, withdraw to zero, send it to that particular address, and then forget about it for the 10 years that you go on, continue doing your job, or shit posting on Twitter. So that's my suggestion. Dollar cost average batching, and just keep your stack nice and clean, and just come back and visit it later on.